Greetings, my name is Mars. I am host of the Watcher's Prophecy News, only on www.kdov.us, America's best Christian radio station. You can find us here Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for our rebroadcast. You can find us on TuneIn, Shoutcast, also under the search term KDOV Radio. Or you can come even join our private think tank, the Watcher Society, at Facebook under the search term Watchers Society. I urge you to come see what we do there as one of the oldest think tanks about the end of days. As always, I have epic information for your mind. Tonight, I'm going to lay out the tentacles, that's right, the very tentacles, of the evil dark side and expose it to the light of day. Bombastic tyranny they represent, and the calling of our God through our life example and doings to stop them cold is in this day in very need of you and your service. You see, these megalomaniacidals, hey, that's a new word, can choke on this. They can puke and find the excrement they dish out themselves to make things that have a common goal. They have a common interest to see evil prevail and justice and liberty go right down the toilet. You understand this is now so expansive that one person can only comment on the small aspects of their operations. The rest, of course, will have to be judged by God. You know, they're even using quantum computing to make their moves like on a grand chessboard. You think I'm joking, I'm not. Just to move their tiny chess pieces around, you have to get to the underlying evil and call it out and show the world the branches of the fruit these guys belong to and what each of them and their goals really are. Boils down to just one thing, and that's greed. Greed. We know who greed's master is. It's that and the power to get more. You know, the Clintons even wrote a book on it. That's right. Subtitle of his new book is Greed. Go look it up. While Bill hired the alphabet agencies to protect him, Hillary wrote her own book on computer lies, still going on today. Many others have come close, but the ones who are the shakers of things deep, they all use the cover of darkness to operate. They plan, they sometimes do it right even in your face, so that you can get to understand how you cannot fight them and thus give up and submit to the New World Order. Well, I have you know we're not submitting to anybody. We, however, do sleep good at night. We have our Lord, we have our Bibles, our guns, and our families. We will protect all of them while the hobgoblins, the evil, they just continuously reach out in world affairs, and they try very hard to jerk our chains. Now you see why they now use these computers to run the numbers, so to speak, as to move the pieces so that the various future components and outcomes change to their favor. It's kind of like a present-day time machine for the future. Middle East peace treaty, Abbas and Netanyahu headed to Moscow to sign a peace deal being forced upon them. That's right. We are switching gears because no one has ever seen anything like the amount of Bible prophecy going on right now. We don't need a time machine for that. Abbas and Netanyahu headed to Moscow. Now, I want you to think about this for a little bit. There's been a fury of diplomatic activity that's taking place right now in the Middle East on a scale that is never been seen before. Russian President Vladimir Putin, the dwarf, has reinvented Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu to Moscow so that they can have a face-to-face negotiation on this two-state solution. Both leaders are saying that they will accept, but it seems like both of them are looking for an excuse not to go. The Bible prophesies that Russia will play a central role in Middle Eastern events during the end times just ahead. It appears that we are watching the stage being set right now for the fulfillment of these prophesied events. Now, spring this on you quick for a reason, because Middle East peace treaty that could be happening is extremely prophetic. Abbas and Netanyahu, think about this. They're headed to Moscow. Remember also, there are many other things that are going on in Israel that should be noticed. High priest has been chosen by the Sanhedrin and has already started the sacrifices in private. And we know this because some blabbermouth had the gall to tell us. But it must occur, the Bible says that it is occurring, for the Antichrist to later stop them. So you see, prophecy is churning and living today. Instead of grappling with these crazy global crises, G20 summit taking place in Hangzhou, China, is revealed as having been turned into a platform for a further deeper plunge into the most massive Cold War we have ever seen between the United States and Russia. There are crazy obstacles and many sticking points summed up even after the umpteenth meeting that was back on Saturday, September the 4th, by Secretary of State John Kerry to agree with the Russian Prime Minister. There's been a lot of phone activity since. On a way forward in the Syrian conflict, none have been found. None. Even some kind of a short truce can't agree upon that. The President Barack Obama blamed Putin for refusing to bring all his clout to bear on Assad. It's because the Iranians are involved in this. To force him to accept the U.S. truce terms, especially a halt in Syrian aerial bombardment. The profound rift between the American and Russian leaders has been very sharply marked, but also arises from a deeper division among the crooks, the very crooks who are stirring the current Syrian conflict. So much right now is being made of the hopeless, fragmented anti-Assad rebel movement into some 1,000 militias, and that's about it now. And the divisions in the Iranian Hezbollah camps backing the Syrian dictator. But very little is heard about the controversies among the bodies in charge of U.S. policy for Syria, namely the White House, the Pentagon, and the Central Intelligence Agency. What are they doing? Seems this internal dissent, which is strongly reflected on the battlefield, is one reason why Obama vetoed any further cooperation with Russia in the Syrian conflict in hopes to get the American corridor next to the Golan still. It's not just the gaps of trust remaining between the two superpowers. There is a great personal dislike. Putin has called Obama many, we'll say, less than flattering Mississippi names. Understand that Russia's foreign ministry and the generals on the handling of Russia's formidable military intervention in any of these conflicts is going to be enormous. Russian generals are pressuring Putin badly. This week, the two leaders took wide, diverse steps to ratchet up the Cold War themes. Putin has already got his defense minister to launch the largest 10-day Caucasus 2016 military exercise from Crimea on the Ukrainian border, involving Russia Black Sea and Caspian Sea fleets, ships, and over 12,000 troops and 600 tanks. And these are not even counting the tanks that are arrayed around Ukraine in 8 other various camps, totaling another 800 tanks. Putin is definitely trying to rattle a cage in Kiev. During the conference, Putin's driver, in a Moscow escort of another high-ranking official, was hit head-on and killed. This is the very limo and driver that Putin himself uses. That would be equivalent to the White House's black limousine being wiped while Obama was gone in China. Putin was gone, but still, this was a direct swipe at Putin. It was also a very bad deal. Rec Incorporated. That's the old name for the CIA because they had put on so many wrecks in the past. It's been in operation since Patton was killed. They wrote the book on how to do these things. The step was taken against the background of strong interfaces sustained in recent years between Ukraine and the Syrian crisis in times of high Russian friction. Now, the writer here, I actually stowed this little piece from the Daily Mail. The writer here, Miss June Francis, has made it clear that Russia is about to be on the highest war footing with the United States that has ever been conceived. They are now even deploying military equipment around the world that has even shocked our highest ranked generals into believing that some sort of power play is about to erupt between U.S. and Russia. U.S. intelligence agencies have let it be known that they are now officially investigating allegations that Russia has even embarked on another broad operation even within the United States, coinciding with this. It's what you do right before war. It involves cyber tools and hacking to sow public distrust in the U.S. presidential election. We've seen a lot of that on the Watchers. And its political institutions, including our own voting machines. The current probe is led by Director of Intelligence James R. Clapper. By the way, Mr. Clapper is a Mason. We're going to get to that as well. The administration has thus gone way beyond the accusations thrown out in late July by their own Democratic Party and some Republican leaders that Russian intelligence was meddling in the campaign by hacking Democratic Party emails for disclosures to embarrass their candidate, Hillary Clinton, as Putin and Hillary have a grand dislike for each other. In fact, Putin has called her a scumbag. I don't know what the Russian equivalent of scumbag is, but Hillary, that's for you. There are also subsequent discoveries of differences in the computers of various state polling centers, and the NSA has gotten together and said that these subsequent attacks, boy, I love that word, subsequent attacks are definitely designed by and from the Russians. The Russians are still denying it. And when you take all these events together in my own mind, it's hard to avoid the conclusion that the Cold War between Russia and the United States has stepped out from the Ukraine into Syria and landed squarely right in the middle of the U.S. presidential election. Only Trump can benefit, and I hope that he does. Whether or not the Russian intelligence was put to work to achieve this, Putin appears to be content with the outcome, and I would be as well. I don't like agreeing with Putin, but I think this time he's smiling simply because he doesn't like Hillary. Understand and do not hesitate to disbelieve me that Vladimir Putin is indeed preparing for war with the West. I believe that with all my heart. Russian president has invested heavily in decking out his top secret facilities around Moscow in the event of war. They are now decked out. He has even ordered the building of a 400 square mile facility in the remote waste of the Ural Mountains from where any future conflict could be directed. This is going to be literally carved out from underneath the mountain. Satellite images reveal the location of the huge epicenter. It's going to be one of the largest man-made caves, 400 square miles, ever out of Mount Yamato. And guess what, folks? They have already been working on it for 13 weeks. We're just now finding out. Satellite images have revealed these giant nuclear bunkers in these facilities. I don't know why it's just now being released. If our government knew that Russia was doing such a thing to hide most of their population in event of this upcoming war in this remote Ural Mountain region, and the nuclear power is even in the process of building the world's most powerful nuke. Now, got news on that. It's called the Satan II, and they're not just building it, they now have 21 operational. Now, to describe this thing, the Satan II missile that Russia is now deploying, and they're deploying it for a reason, it is the most powerful nuclear weapon in the world. It is larger than the United States' largest warhead, which the United States has a 9.5 megaton weapon, three-stage weapon. This Satan II is three-stage weapon, but it's 12.5 megatons. This deadly warhead that the Soviets are now deploying everywhere, 21 of these so far, is believed to be big enough to destroy an area the size of France. Get that? Get that? See, a lot of people read Jeremiah 51 and they go, no, that's not us. That couldn't be us. Not that kind of devastation. Why don't you go read it? See what will be left of our great nation. 21 of these are now fully deployed, and it was just put on standby for its very first training exercise that coincides with what is currently going on with NATO and the Ukraine. It's all part of the escalation process for the war to come. The ramping up in these military facilities comes at a dire time when tensions between the West and the Soviet Union, the new Soviet Union, are at their lowest ebb for a generation. More danger now than when, as children, we would go downstairs and then duck under our desk in the basement for bomb drills. I still remember that. Now we should be ready, and we should know this war is really nearly upon us. I believe the Gog War will start the tribulation. It will be the tribulation starting event, followed immediately by the Great Deception. Now, if this great deception comes from the air, and this great deception happens to be, look, the ancient astronauts, the aliens are back, you will fall for it. Because they'll come down and look just like what is plastered on your lunchbox and popular magazines and video games everywhere, this gray-headed alien. And whatever should happen at this time, you have to understand that this attack will be a Russian sneak attack. Even now, their current annexation of the Crimea and support for pro-Russian separatists, which are really Russian regulars in disguise, in eastern Ukraine have dissolved all friendly relations. There's not any anymore. You remember about 2 years ago when Putin started the tactic of simply not answering the red phone? The White House would call a dozen times and Putin would simply not answer. It's got to tell you about what's going on now after the G20 summit. The relations are at an all-time low. Now, to back all this up, there are things going on elsewhere in the Middle East. Israel is making ready the very final steps for a either all-out war or biggest bluff in history award. Well, they're not bluffing about the war. They can bring that. I support Israel. I pray for the nation of Israel and for Jerusalem, as the Bible commands us to do. In a secret memo linked by WikiLeaks, Israel Mossad has completed a plan to wipe out all life in the West Bank in a shock and awe attack so vast, involving artillery, bombs, mortars, and bombs from bombers, so vast that it will eliminate all life in the West Bank. The shock attack so vast that he states the war will be over just after the enemy fires the first shot. By the way, later in that conversation, he did mention the Iranians. This plan was to invade the West Bank and take all males left standing into POW camps. Bibi has secretly signed off on this measure, stating that Iran and all of its proxies will not ever see one drop of Golan oil, or one drop of Golan land, or one drop of Israeli blood, without the real understanding of what we can do here if we want to, even right now. Bibi has dropped the axe on these people. He's done that right in front of this negotiation. He has to be tough, have a tough position to start with once him and the boss make it to Moscow. That is definitely some big news, because pushing this two-state solution seems to be in everyone's interest but Israel's. Lebanon, amid the carnage of Syria's civil war, well into its 6th year, Israeli military chiefs say that Iran and its prized proxy Hezbollah are superficially seeking to establish a new front in a much deeper conflict. The Iran-backed group's 30-year war against the Jewish state, hoping that until recently would be waged almost exclusively from neighboring Lebanon, that has now changed. Now coming from the West Bank. Center of this strategy, which Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has frequently exposed in recent months, is the consumption of the Golan Heights. That's all he is rattling about. United States officials have a press ban on him. That is why you are not hearing much out of Nasrallah's mouth, but he is inciting many. Now, Golan Heights is a 8,000-meter high volcanic plateau that overlooks northern Israel. It's been a battleground since biblical times. Israel seized the western two-thirds of the heights in 67 Middle East War. 400-plus square miles is the Israeli-controlled Golan on the northeast border with Syria. In its both strategic plateau and lush agricultural terrain, yielding very prized apples, cherries, and beef. In fact, the land there has bloomed so much, over 400% in the last 12 years. Officials still wonder what is going on. Maybe that should bring a Bible verse into mind. There's also a vast playground that drew 3 million tourists last year. Lots of terrorists as well. Now, the United Nations Security Council has already condemned Israel's annexation of the Golan. Did that right after the war. And most of the world officially considers territory occupied and the settlements there completely illegal, just like in the West Bank, but it's rarely the focus of most of these international activism and diplomacy groups. The construction of the Golan has grew, and it has drawn a lot of criticism. Now, Israel's established a buffer zone now on the far side, extending all the way into Syria, some 40 kilometers. That's right, and various sniper and mining teams that are both looking for enemy mines while relaying their own. Israel is establishing this buffer zone as Turkey is now doing. This is Bibi's way of telling the Americans they are not getting the oil in Golan either. Now, why is this oil important? One, it is the largest deposit of oil, such a light sweet crude tested in the Nest 3 samples, that the Israeli oil minister commented that after smelling it and tasting it that that's right, these people eat oil, that it was good enough to go right out of the ground into your engine. You know, that's a incredible find. So the land there is being very blessed, above and below ground. And understand that Abbas and Bibi both going to see Putin in Moscow, that France is going to be there as well, and also the Iranians, their point of view will also be included. The likely outcome is that others like France, who are heavily involved in right now helping Abbas, have a state and kind of seal the Palestinian deal. And if this deal can be done, it is the agreement between many. The world is pressuring Bibi into this. Even his own party right now is losing at home because of this very issue. Support Benjamin Netanyahu, and I would expect many of our watchers to pray for him and his nation. You know, the world is spinning, and on another side, because of this Syria tension, and the fact that NATO has moved the nukes from Turkey to Romania, has Putin really shaking, and he's now using the Ukraine as his leverage point in Syria. Putin has his hands in so much right now, but they really want the Golan. See, whoever gets the Golan Heights gets this Nest 3 reserve found there from the Nest 3 drilling site. And that person or country that secures and drills there will rule the world for the next 200 years. Keep that in mind of the end goal of power and greed. Now, the Russians have filed even with the UN papers that wish their sphere of influence to be on the Golan side also. We know that. That's always been part of their negotiation line with Kerry. There was a meeting last week, we're going to get into this kind of heavy here in a moment, of a group you may have heard about in the past called Skull and Bones. Now, I have this from my best sources that this meeting, 2 U.S. presidents and many others attended, and that certainly explains why President Bush's latest leave of absence. It's my opinion now that they will attempt a war, as Iran has allied with Hezbollah this week, and many others, to start this second intifada. And it's already the United States this week has asked all of its citizens, all Americans, to get out of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Get out immediately. Tell all Americans to get out. This is right before this big summit between the two leaders. Now, all this diplomatic fury, you must understand that the Russian Secret Service, the FSB, many others, all could see a war clearly coming and have ran to some type of, we've got to do this and solve it right now, once and for all. In this deal, however, many have a hand deeply in the pie. Let me tell you that this time is close. Turkey and Russia and the United States are all in Syria, as well as in China, India, Australia, Germany, France, and even Italy. The battlefield of the century has developed. Anyway, these Skull and Bones, let me tell you a little bit about them and about this meeting. It was founded in 1832 after a dispute between Yale debating societies. It's called the Order of the Skull, Skull and Bones. The society assets are managed by the society's alumni association, the Russell Trust Association. Now, for that to make any sense, you might have heard of a Russell Trust. It is called that now simply because they're the most secretive in the world. If you don't know what all is included in a trust, believe me, you can have property. It's like a personal corporation on steroids, on acid. They're incorporated in 1856 and named after the Bones co-founder. Association was founded by Russell and Daniel Coit Gilman, a Skull and Bones member and later president of the University of California. He was the first president of Johns Hopkins University. By the way, they are the leader in the genetic push to crossbreed their off-campus programs to crossbreed humans with other life. You understand where these people are, what they think, how they act, what they do. And the founding president of the Carnegie Institution, you should know that name. This society runs PBS broadcasting funding as well as 100 other public opinion outlets. They own a ranch out on Deer Island that has been used even for the Illuminati meetings. The society owns and manages a place called Deer Island. It's an island retreat on the St. Lawrence River. And it's about 40 acres. It's intended to give these bonesmen an opportunity to get together and rekindle old friendships. We know a lot more happens there. Well, anyway, this secret meeting included a live sacrifice, according to the witness that has come forward. And, folks, I cannot name names because she has asked me not to. She was actually a member's guest at this function. Altogether, she said there were 25 people there, and how she got there was truly a miracle. She's reporting on this in total anonymous status because her very life could be at jeopardy over these things. You understand, these secret meetings that include these live sacrifices of goats and pigs, they chant backwards, she said, in Hebrew. Was explained a script that proclaims Lucifer as God only. Now, do you understand who's at the top of the food chain on their grocery list? It's Lucifer. Their inductees are limited to white Protestant males for much of history. Yale itself had a very exclusionary policy. It was really directed at particular ethnic and religious groups. You had to be a certain way, a certain someone, a certain proxy. These senior societies are even more exclusionary now. Some are Catholics, they're able to join. Jews are often not. But various religious preferences, mostly Presbyterian, if you can believe that, Methodists, are allowed to enter Skull and Bones by means of sports and many other things that they get recruited through. Many of these people are scholars, like Levi Jackson, class of 1950, turned down the invitation for a higher order called Bezelarius Society. That's a Latin term for Beelzebub. It's one above the Skull and Bones. Another one of the groups. These students have all come forward and tapped Skull and Bones in the head and said, hey, look, we know what you do. Skull and Bones is responsible for a lot because you see how they churn these people out who do their bidding. And currently, dig this, currently almost every single last one of the last class now work for the federal government, all but two, and 4 of the last class now work for the CIA. So you see their fruits of whom they produce is critical among the thinking about what I'm going to show you next. Now, there are many of these Skull and Bones, many of these alumni, like President and Supreme Court Justice William Howard Taft, who was, by the way, a founder's son. Former Presidents George W. Bush and George W. Bush Supreme Court Justices Morris R. Waith and Potter Stewart. James Jesus Algathon, also known as the mother of the CIA. Henry Simpson, U.S. Secretary of War. U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Lovett, who directed the entire Korean War, by the way. William B. Washburn, Governor of Massachusetts. Henry Luce, founder and publisher of Time, Life, Fortune, and Sports Illustrated magazines, all members. John Kerry, a U.S. Secretary of State and former U.S. Senator. Joseph Schwartzman, founder of the Blackstone Group that currently supplies all mercenaries overseas. Austrian Goldsby, chairman of Barack Obama's Council of Economic Advisors, the 5th highest position in the White House structure, at least as far as money goes. Harold Swanley, co-founder of Morgan Stanley. That's right, these people are all Skull and Bones. Got to understand the power and privilege behind what they are doing and who they are. Frederick W. Smith, founder of FedEx. They're all reported to be members, among with Dick Cheney and Rupert Murdoch and even Lord Rothschild himself. Members are assigned nicknames. Long Devil, the tallest member, and Boaz, the varsity football captain, or Sharif, the prince of the future. Many of these chosen names are drawn from literature like Hamlet, Uncle Remus, through religion or myth. The banker Louis Lapham passed on his nickname Sancho Panza to the political advisor Tex McCrary. Admiral Harriman was Thor. Bruce Luce was Bial. George McGovern Bundy. Robert Oden. George W. Bush was Magog. You understand these names all mean something. 2004, the U.S. presidential election, both the Democratic and Republican nominees were George W. Bush, wrote in his autobiography that very year. In my senior year, I joined Skull and Bones, a secret society. So secret that now I can't tell you anything more. When asked what is meant that he and Bush were both bonesmen, former president candidate John Kerry said, "Not much, because it's a secret." Well, tonight I'm going to blow the lid off of it. And others, because there are two groups who contain double membership and have teamed up forces to do evil Satan's work. Every senior member of Skull and Bones is also a Mason, or better. When I say or better, I'll explain that. Now, their current goal is the Golan Heights. Let's not forget the focus right now of Skull and Bones is the Golan Heights. You look at all these other wars. I'm telling you, they will go to war. They will have the God war and fry every human on earth just to get this lot of oil. It's found in this recent survey to be larger than the total U.S. and Saudi output combined if all tapped. The USA and Syria is a direct result of the United States wanting a UN brokered return of the Golan so they can have the oil and the money. They can get in there and drill. Israel has now made a buffer zone there, so now Turkey is doing the same. The likelihood of an American sector is turning sour and very south because of the Kurds and the Russians and the Iranians who also want the same oil. Don't be a fool about any of this. It is all about oil, 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 just like Iraq, just like Libya, just like everywhere else they have went. And who is behind in with these guys? CIA. The dual membership, the Golan, and all of these other facts are just a drop in a bucket to what their real goals are. I'm about to explain that and some of their symbolism. The Golan find is likely underground, connected to the Leviathan gas fields offshore being its elevation, and why the Israel wants deeper settlements to establish the land and what they will do to protect it from the mastermind of war, Dick Cheney, and Mr. Murdoch. Remember who got the Gulf War going. Believe me, it wasn't Bush near as much as it was Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney wanted that war very badly. You understand now, 68 various companies, with three major heads, Exxon being one of them, by the way, BP being another. The third you're going to have to guess at. You'll probably be right. In Iraq now, pumping out the oil after the Gulf War, because we have private security and we have companies there now because we won all that territory. That is not going to last much longer either. Still predict the Mosul Dam is going to break. That may likely be the water breaking. But the Golan find is likely underground, connected, like I said, to the Leviathan gas fields offshore. And Israel is going to do anything to protect it. Dick Cheney, Murdoch crew, they want that oil, and they're willing to even start World War III to get it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it starts with the chain of command. Let's get this straight. We know Satan is at the head of all this evil, so let's curse his unholy name and praise the name of Jesus Christ. The Illuminati, however you want to pronounce their name, this other mysterious secret group of 12 members, the Illuminati, 12 members strong. They have even had meetings aboard a nuclear submarine under the North Pole for secrecy. That's how bad they want to maintain secrets from you. These 12-member strong families, the Rothschilds, the Bilderbergers, the Cheneys, the Murdoch brothers, the Bushes, the Careys, 5 others from the corporate world, including Apple CEO and Amazon bankers, and even a current head of state. Under them have 6 tentacles and many symbols. And we're going to show you, we're going to get to all those if I can in a few moments, so that you will know when you watch these people on TV and they start running these signals, these hand signals and face signals, you're going to know. Understand the CIA is run by the bonesmen. CIA, get this, CIA is run by the bonesmen who work for the Illuminati. So Illuminati, bonesmen, CIA, got that? That's one little chain. That's their strong arm. The Masons are used for corporate and political guile to rule. And the Order of the Eastern Star is yet another. They're a sub-tentacle of the Masons. And the women's division, we'll put it that way. And they're the we'll help you if you help us women's secret society that advances the overall totalitarian one world government through local councils, media bullcrap that we hear of every day. The Order of Mirage, this is another one. It's a order where they use the mascot of a leopard. It's very symbolic. They are the liars and deceivers, the ultra rich, the board of directors, so to speak. One of the tentacles that are extremely dangerous because many of the assassins come from the Order of Mirage. The Order of the Red Dragon, also known as Knights Templar Order, they ensure that the education and false teachings become popular. And the MIC, or the Trilateral Board, the last tentacle, a body that decides political outcomes, assassinations, and is deeply into the doings of the great deception yet to come. Now, if you don't think these tentacles exist right under Satan's hand, you're being deceived. They exist. They're there. They are doing things even now that we must pray against. As much as I don't like Glenn Beck, he did break it down correctly, at least that day. First, I want to discuss a little of the goals of each so that you have an arrow of direction as to their leader. Many of you have seen speeches where they use hand signs. Well, let's discuss that some. Freemasonry is the work and worship, this is in their own directory at level 33, of Lucifer, Satan. 33rd degree, second generation Mason. I'm going to explain, has given me information concerning many of these Masonic symbols. These occultists, and I'm not shaming him, this is a life decision, a life choice, and although some things I'm not putting on the air, I'm going to tell you that I'm putting an enormous emphasis on how they communicate through symbols with other members while hiding the truth from initiates and what they call us that aren't members, the profane. We are called the profane, those people who are not members. These magic symbols they use, it's a magic symbol, it's an image which hides a inner meaning. Now, a lot, even too much is being made of this. The real enemy isn't something that's going to jump out on a sheet of paper and get you. But these images that they are portraying are part of their fruits. And when we prove their fruits conclusively to you who are listening, my dear listeners, that are maybe skeptical of this chain of command and who is pulling the actual strings, Lucifer himself is pulling many of these strings. It's usually hidden, a cunningly hidden deception in a form that most people think they can immediately understand. Meaning these Masonic symbols reveal the cunningly hidden meanings, then compare them with known satanic symbols so that when I'm done, you can easily see from where the Freemasonry receives the supernatural insights and their so-called, dig this, spiritual light. Well, I'm telling you, not a one of them has any light. Just my opinion. So let's get into some of that symbology real quick and let you digest that. There's one on the west entrance of the CIA building, one on the north entrance, and all the other entrances have a single-headed eagle, but the west side entrance has a double-headed eagle, and that picture's been taken. It's all over Facebook. Many people have seen it, and they know that the CIA has two heads. There are many things. The devil is often called a two-faced rat. So we're going to understand that double-headed cannot be definitely seen right off the bat as a good thing. It's probably the most easily recognizable Masonic symbol in the world, even more important than the square of the compass rule. They look like two eagles, but they are not. They are the phoenix birds of ancient Egypt. Remember that the Brotherhood is known in ancient Egypt as the mystery schools. These mystery schools were founded upon the very principles of the mystics who taught before the pharaohs. You remember that little encounter with Moses and the staff and Aaron? You remember that? That had to look really good in front of the pharaoh. Well, they teach that there. Current presidential seal has an eagle on it. The eagle is replaced by the phoenix, the original national bird, in 1841 as the national bird. Remember, the phoenix was our first national bird. The phoenix! Phoenix has been a brotherhood symbol since ancient Egypt. They even got their way on that. It was changed because it was too much in plain sight. Phoenix was adopted by the Founding Fathers for use on the reverse of the first official seal of the United States after a design proposed by Charles Thompson, Secretary of the Continental Congress, also a 33rd degree Mason. Listen to the explanation from Masonic Arthur Manley P. Hall. Okay, I've done it. I've exposed his name. That's all right, Manny. You will just have to suffer the consequences. A illustrated review of occultism and philosophy. I really do feel like throwing this guy under the bus. Before I begin this, I want you to understand that it's highly interesting that Mr. Hall would admit by his own use of the title that Freemasonry is occultic and that practice is acceptable for man. Kind of brings you back to Genesis 3 and what the devil told Eve about the apple or the fruit. Among the ancients, a fabulous bird called the phoenix is described by early writers. In size and shape, it resembles the eagle, but with certain differences. The body of the phoenix is covered with a glossy purple feathers, and the plumes in its tail are alternately red and blue. The head of the bird is light in color, and about the ring on its neck is a circlet of golden plumage. At the back of its neck, the phoenix has a crest of feathers of brilliant color. This phoenix is said to live for 500 years. And its death, its body opens and a new one is born, a new phoenix emerges. Because of this symbolism, the phoenix is generally regarded as representing immortality and resurrection, and would be in hopes, according to the designer of the seal, that would be the fate of the Americas. I think the fate of the Americas is well written in Jeremiah 51. You should go read that. The phoenix is one side of the secret orders of the ancient world and the initiate of the others. For it was common to refer to one who had been accepted into the temples as a man twice born or reborn. This is Satan using the born again theologism of Christ and bending it around backwards. Preach to Freemasons that they would be born again in them. Do you get it? Do you get it? These Freemasons have sold their soul to hell. Freemasons, like all these other occultists, refer to their initiates who have completed their very initiation as being born again. In 1988, when George Bush was on the presidential campaign trail. Barbara Walters interviewed him. She asked him a question that caught him very much off guard. Barbara asked George if he was a Christian. Bush literally stumbled and scrambled. You could see his eyes going everywhere but down. He then grasped the earth in his hands, and as he picked up the dirt for a moment, answered, "If by being a Christian you ask if I am born again, then yes, I am a Christian." You get it? You see who these people are working for. Now, I'm not just out here to bash Bush. That's not the point of this. I'm trying to show you some of these things that are associated with the chain of command, their very symbology. Bush parsed his words very carefully, unlike a born-again Christian. Bush has a lifetime membership in the Illuminati Masonic secret society called Skull and Bones. They are number 2 under the Illuminati. The answer that Bush gave is typical of these occultists and their very handbook of things they are trained to say in front of the camera. They claim to be born again. They're also filled with a religious ecstasy that the spirit of Lucifer sweeps through them upon certain invitations. You could say, "Oh, look at the energy and the Holy Ghost in that man." Instead, it is nothing but the darkest of demons jumping up and down. Now, back to the radical bird. Listen, my explanation was given by a feminist named Barbara Walter in her cult book called The Dawning. She believed that the phoenix was representative of a god who rose to heaven in the form of a morning star like Lucifer after his fire immolation of death and rebirth. This was echoed almost word for word by the producer of the seal that long ago. So wow, in one sweet word, one sweet simple sentence, we have conclusive proof that the phoenix bird is indeed the symbol of Lucifer. Our founding bird. We'll listen now to the testimony of another former witch named William Soch Bryan. In his book, Satan's Door Revisited, the phoenix of Bennu is believed to be a divine bird going back to Egypt. This phoenix destroys itself in flames and then rises from the ashes. Most occultists believe that the phoenix is a symbol directly of Lucifer, who was cast down in flames and who will one day rise triumphant with his armies on earth. Well, aren't we seeing that right now everywhere? This belief also relates to the raising of many of their own beliefs about a Masonic Antichrist. They believe that too. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is drawing near the conclusion of the Watcher's Prophecy News for tonight, but I need to tell you this before I go, that you need to be prepared emotionally. This great deception, this great casting of supernatural fear that will be presented by the coming events, Bible says, will be unlike any other fear that has ever been known. And that is because as a society we are so very complacent. We're not doing anything. We're not helping ourselves. We're not storing food. We're not doing the things that must be done to teach our neighbors to live as self, to treat them as self, so that when these things come, we can stand in unity instead of killing each other. I do believe war is soon. There are simply too many things going on, from the Iranian speedboats chasing American destroyers and other sea craft, to what is going on in Ukraine, Syria, and the Middle East, are only a small drop in the bucket compared to what could be going on in your heart with Jesus Christ. Find Him as your core and let Him be your shield. Always and forever, come tune in for the next exciting episode of the Watchers Prophecy News every 10 p.m. Saturday, only on KDOV Radio, the best Christian radio in America. Thank you and good night.